So welcome back to the final sessions here on Transformation Stage, and welcome Jürgen von der Lehr. Good to see you. Jürgen looks back on 20 years of experience in the financial services sector and has gained extensive digital skills and strategic and operational expertise in retail and corporate experience banking. And that is why he knows how to get the backbone of digital financial services right, talking about digital identities. Welcome on stage.
Thanks very much. So good afternoon, everyone. I know it's one of the last sessions. Hope you're not too tired after this long, but also very exciting day. Day of today, our topic of this presentation is digital identity. And maybe before I go into this topic, allow me a few words why I think this is really of utmost importance. First, I think we've all experienced, in particular during the COVID lockdown situation, how important digital is. I think even schools in Germany realized how important digital is. And from my personal point of view, digital identity is the last missing really enabler for a digital society, which has been tackled many years ago already, but from my perspective, not in a proper way. I think now it's time to do it right. Explain that in a few seconds. And I think it's also, we've been talking a lot about ecosystems in the past. I think that has been one of the biggest buzzwords around digital. Haven't seen too many really well-working ecosystems in the past, but I think, again, digital identity will be one of the key enablers for this. I think I don't have to tell you how important the mobile phone is and that all of us are using it heavily for different purposes. For communication, I think that's how it started. We use it for shopping, we use it even for payment, we use it even for health management and storage of health data. There's only one thing that's really missing, and that's a digital identity piece. That's not yet in any of the apps or on the mobile. One of the maybe tangible examples, when I was traveling during the COVID restriction time, I always had to present my COVID certificate, so I had the mobile. On the other hand, I had my luggage, and then they were asking me for the identity card. That was a problem. I always try to find it somewhere, and then the luggage fall down and all that things. So I think that's maybe one of the most tangible examples why this is, from my perspective, the missing link on the mobile, actually. I think if we talk about digital identity, which is basically translating actually physical certificates, the physical identity card, a lot of other things you can imagine, even the vaccination certificate, into a digital wallet or identity that allows to prove others that I'm entitled to do so. For example, that I'm vaccinated, or that I'm the person that is on the picture. So basically fulfilling the role of an identity card. In order to do so, it needs to be reliable, it needs to be verifiable, so basically it needs to allow the counterparty or the other or receiving party or requesting party needs to allow to verify that I'm the person entitled to carry this title or the person on this picture. So it needs to be verifiable. It also needs to be reliable, and it needs to be interoperable. And that's something I come to in a few seconds. So you can imagine a lot of use cases once we have something like a digital wallet that we can store it and use actually via the mobile phone. I think in Germany we've been ahead of the game with the eID. 12 years ago, 2010, the German government introduced actually the eID. Not many of us, I guess, have been using really eID for several reasons. Simply inconvenient, not easy to use. And there's also this typical chicken egg problem. It has been issued, but there's no acceptance of it really in the market. There's only a few players accepting really the EID card. So from that perspective, that if you want to create a network or a platform, the typical chicken egg problem is simply, or has simply not been used. Let's see how we can cope with this or how we can solve this going forward. I think one of the major game changers will be the eIDAS, so basically the electronic identification, authentication, and trust services. A regulation that will come into play, or will get more clarity how this is going to look like, will be end of this year. And this is actually meant to force basically all EU member states, 27 states, to provide their people with a digital wallet that allows to store basically the e-identity, if you like. So the identity card plus other certificates issued by public companies like universities, but also from the private sector in the health area or other things. And I think one of the game changers here is actually the fact that not only the governments or the local governments are forced to issue this, but on the other hand, that also the typical receiver of data are also forced to accept this wallet, actually. So for example, we as a bank, we are forced to accept this wallet by, for example, while opening an account or a payment account. So basically doing the identification, which currently is usually done via video ident processes, is now or is then able to be done via the digital wallet. I think that will be the game changer from my perspective, because this thing is tackled from two sides. It's forced to be issued on one hand, and on the other hand, the important institutions are kind of also forced to accept this as an identification mean. And important is also in that respect, it is interoperable. It means like I can transfer the identity across different systems or different networks. Because one important thing is, in Germany, there have been a couple of initiatives so far, be it Yes, be it VeryMe, or also Apple and Google trying to provide actually their own identity. But what we see is it's all kept within the own network. It's not interoperable. It's exchangeable, maybe that's a better word, across networks. I think that's also going to be changed by the regulation. The technology that is underlying this wallet needs to allow or enable interoperability across systems. That is, from my perspective, also driving usage of a digital wallet, and also enabling enabling actually the inclusion of additional services into the wallet. One key aspect of it is what we call the self-sovereign identity. From my perspective, it's very important that customers or users, end users, keep control of their data. Data are stored locally, not at any provider. It's basically my data, and it's stored with me. The only thing that's on a public kind of cloud, or in particularly it will be used or stored on a blockchain, is actually the key to verify that this person is entitled to have to provide this data, and is also entitled to ask for this data for the receiving end. So that's what we understand with self-sovereignty. And that's also one of the reasons why we as ING made the decision that we will be part of a network, ID union in that case, that is consisting of different players from different industries, banks, but also industry companies, but also public companies, that are creating a joint network that is open to everybody to join. It's based on this distributed ledger technology, and is going to really fulfill the criteria of self-sovereignty. So data are kept with the client or the end user, and the user make the decision who he wants to provide the data to. And as said, and I really want to emphasize this, is open to all market participants. It's not a closed network other than the ones who are yet in the market. And that's my personal opinion, why this altogether is going to change the game and is helping us in Europe actually also to keep up competitive moment, because we all know what happened in the payment industry. Basically, all has been taken by the American platforms, Chinese in a sense. And I think identity is one of the areas where we still can protect, but we need to be fast. And that's why I also really am happy that this regulation is going to come in place and is kind of forcing us to become more open and provide digital identity to users. Maybe to sum this quick presentation up. So I think, as said, smartphones, we all know. We all use them, we all carry them with us, and we all get nervous if we don't have it with us. We rather keep them with us instead of the wallet. And there's one thing really missing, that's the identity piece in order to make life even easier. And as just described, it needs to be an interoperable ecosystem in order to really encourage and enable all players in the market to be part of it and overcome this typical chicken egg issue or challenge. And EU regulation is going to help us enforcing this and making this really, really happen. That's it. Thanks very much. I think there will be a couple of questions.
I sure do. Thanks a lot for that. Can you point out the role of banks again that they have in the process of becoming a digitalized society?
Yeah, sure, pleasure. I think one of the main roles will be actually given also by the EIDAS regulation, as banks are the ones who need to issue digital identities, but also need to accept digital identities when opening, for example, account. And of course, banks will also benefit from this situation. I don't have to tell you how cumbersome currently an identification or opening process is. It's very paper heavy. If we want to become more sustainable, then it's also an important measure. So that's also helping banks in order to improve actually also their processes, save some cost, improve the economy or the environmental footprint. And it's at the end also enabling banks to orchestrate actually a digital ecosystem.
Is that also what you mean when you say businesses and public administrations need to work closer, hand in hand? Is that a matter of acceptance?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's also a sign on learning from the past. I think in the past there has been rather siloed solutions in the market, and what we see is we have on one hand public institutions issuing certificates or identity cards, and on the other hand there's the private sector trying to build up something, and it needs to be hand in hand. And I think both sides can learn from each other. I think one of the other learnings from the EID is, from my perspective, that it has not been thought from a user or customer. So customer centricity is maybe one of the other buzzwords, but in that case, it has not delivered to the expectations with regard to customer experience. And that's maybe something the private sector can bring in much better. That's why I think there's strong opportunities for a joint collaboration. In what time periods do you think when you think of a digitalized society? We just had a different session, and there we learned that only 55% are doing online banking so far. So how do you get a whole society to be digitalized? Are you thinking about 10 years, 20 years? Well, I don't think personally that we don't have that much time. I mean, you're right. The penetration is still comparably low compared to other countries. But the interesting thing, and I can tell you, I'm working for Dutch bank with a European footprint in Germany, and they tend to say about the Germans are not digital at all. But if you look at the numbers who have the have been developed over the past 2 years, and particularly also to the COVID experience, that's really tremendous. And if we really tolerate this trend, and I think it won't take like 10 years. But I think there's a couple of things necessary. I was focusing a lot or emphasizing a lot on the digital identity, but the truth is it's also a lot about infrastructure. I think that's also something we all experienced while working from home, that not all connections have been that steadily and that quick and that fast and stable as we would have wished to. So, and I think there's still a lot of areas in Germany which are not really well equipped by the technical infrastructure. I think that's one thing that really needs to be improved very fast. Second is education. There's a lot about education, educating people, not only the elderly people, but also the younger generation.
So are you thinking about school and educating in school?
Yes, school is one of the big elements from my perspective. It's getting used to technology quite early, or when you are young, in order also then to push people or pull people, rather, pull people into university or technical, let's say, technical traineeships. And
okay. Thank you so much.
That's what we really need to work on.
And thank you for sharing. Jürgen von der Lehr, Head of Strategy and Business Development at ING Germany.
Thanks very much.